Hello and welcome to Australian Transformers Weekly. We are bringing you Transformers news from around the world under Milky Way tonight. This is episode 225. We're recording live on Friday, January 29th, 2021. In this episode, we will be talking about new Kingdom figures already. Surely that's not right. The Chaos Bringer is apparently approaching, and by that I mean Unicron and not my cat. And what else is coming up? There's that show that I seem to be the only one who likes. It's Cyberverse. We'll talk a little bit about Cyberverse tonight. All that and more is coming up in this week's episode of Australian Transformers Weekly. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jason. Joining me this week, going left to right, we have Max coming to us for the first time in a couple of months from the land of the Tesla battery, Adelaide. How are you doing, Max?
Stop saying that. Leave for 6 months, come back, and we're still making the same Adelaide power jokes. But no,
mate, I don't know if you noticed, but like you went away for 6 months, and Hasbro released 0 Transformers last year in the last 6 months. So
I went away for 6 months and nothing changed.
Yeah, pretty much. Nothing changed, so we're still stuck on the Tesla joke. No, how are you doing, man? It's been a while. You've been busy. Did you finish school?
Yeah, I've finished uni entirely now, so that's why I wasn't here really. I had to finish that, which is kind of weird actually to think about the fact that this show's been going on for long enough that I was midway through high school.
I was going to say you actually you've officially finished school twice on the podcast now. Once was high school, and sorry, I said school, but I meant uni. But yes,
which kind of is a scary thought to think about. You know, when you think about the longevity of the show, like this has been going on a fair while, but it
has.
It may.
I think Max's Tesla battery may have given out on him there. He's frozen up for a bit.
Did the power wall explode or something, Max?
Yeah. Sorry, Max, try again.
Yeah. You're at the end. I said, no, it's an impressive thing to sort of think about the context of how long this has been going for. And,
it has. Let's take a moment to appreciate. This is episode 225.
Yeah, it's just fucking boggles the mind.
Yeah. I think when we first started, like I was listening to podcasts that were like episode 500. I'm like, oh, we're never going to get to that. I mean, like we haven't, but like we're still here. We're still going, and we're still going on about Transformers every week, every other week. I think last year we did about 3 podcasts, but that's okay. Moving on a little bit over to the man of mystery, the intersuburbial man of mystery, Tony. Tony Kim, how are you doing?
Coming to you live from my secret lair, somewhere in New South Wales.
I think
a hairless cat.
a hairless cat for a hairless noggin. I think we've decided that you are the most mysterious member of the podcast so far.
I must be. There's a mystique that I love to sort of have. I don't know if it gets you like extra brownie points though. Does it make the podcast any better that there's a mysterious figure? That
I don't know. It's rustling my jimmies though, right? Like I think it's cool.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
cool. All right.
You know,
I thought it was
good.
a little bit like Charlie's Angels or something, you know? Like I'm only a speaker box that you ever see, and I provide you with verbal content.
Are you saying that you're Bill Murray?
No, that's Bosley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, because that's Charlie. Yeah, no, fair enough.
Charlie. Yeah.
I'm clearly not up on my Angels.
No, you were too distracted by how hot they were, so that's totally understandable.
I'm sure that's it. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So anyway, before we awkwardly move on from that, what has everyone been up to this week? And amazingly, this is the 3rd week in a row we've actually managed to do a podcast. 2021 is off to a good start, so I can actually say what have you been up to this week? What's been happening? I mean, Max, we know that you finished uni since you were last on, but has anything been happening? Because like states' borders have been closed. Are there any events happening locally?
We had the Comic and Toy Fair in October, and I think that's been it, really.
Yeah. Was that the one that I came over to?
Yes, I believe so. It's the one that's sort of just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger every year. But yeah, Brett's the only person who's really had the drive to put on anything. And I mean, good on him for doing so, because it's really, it's sort of kept that spirit alive locally.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys have been relatively COVID-free over there, so you've been enjoying freedoms that the rest of us can only dream of. But yeah, no, I mean, good on you.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like a spectator on the rest of the world. Just sitting over here and not really thinking about it. Like, so long as you don't need to leave the state, it's just kind of a non-factor.
Well, I'll tell you what, the rest of the world is spectating you guys.
Yeah. I mean, even Sydney, by comparison, you're doing miles better than anywhere else on the planet.
Yeah. So, Max, when you walk around Adelaide right now, you don't have any face masks? Do you need to sanitize when you enter a store, that sort of thing?
No, it's all there's signs up saying, sanitize, we recommend it, please sign in, wear a face mask if you can, but nothing's compulsory, and no one really tells you to do anything. Yeah. I think we could be more vigilant with it, given that we had the start of a second wave, but then we also stopped it. So it's
yeah. Didn't you stop it because it was a lie?
So the first few cases were real, but it was just the circumstances surrounding them were, because it was a guy at a pizza restaurant, and the idea was that it had been transmitted by the food. So then all of a sudden it was this big thing like, everyone who's got a pizza from this place is at risk, but then it was actually just he worked there and he was bullshitting.
So I feel like if that happened now, they'd probably call it like another mutant strain and probably believe it. Because there's so many. I tell you what, there's so many mutant strains of the coronavirus now that it's actually become the new X-Men team. There's not South Australia. There's South America. There's Brazil. There's the UK. There's South Africa. I mean, there's a lot of Souths happening, but yeah.
Well, in the first day of our second wave, they said, "Oh, this is a new mutant strain. It's more infectious. We've really got to be careful about this." And then a couple of days later, actually, no, it's not. We got that wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. All right. I think, without any further ado, we should probably go talk about some Transformers news. Does that float you guys' boats? Are you up for some Transformers tonight?
Yeah, I can get behind some Transformers.
Yeah.
Let's rock out. Let's do it.
I mean, I prefer to be in front of the Transformers because I generally find that their rear views are pretty disappointing. But let's see how we go. We're going to move swiftly on and get to the news. Straight into news.
Hasbro news.
That will take us into some news.
What news comes from by yonder?
I'm going to bring the news share in, and we are off and racing with. No, it's not a world first this time, but it is, I believe, the first time that we've actually seen these guys crop up in Australia. I like my Cyberverse. I like Cyberverse. I have enjoyed collecting the Cyberverse deluxe figures. They are not all that great. Some of them are really good. I think my pick would probably be Optimus Prime, and Megatron seems pretty good as well. Megatron and Optimus have gone over really well with people. I think the others are a bit hit and miss. Anyway, there's a new wave of Cyberverse figures to be hit and miss about, and there's the first two figures were sighted in Melbourne today, and they are, as you see on screen, there is a Cyberverse Deluxe Starscream and Soundwave. Now, these guys were spotted in a Big W store, and they are $39, which is a very difficult price to swallow for what these guys are. They are sort of deluxe scale engineering that we would have expected on deluxes maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But these days we have slightly higher expectations of deluxe engineering because of Siege and Earthrise. So these guys are kind of a bit of a throwback and kind of a cheap out on the concept of a deluxe, but they are probably the best, most articulated versions of these figures that we've seen. So Starscream and Soundwave are spotted today. They're probably going to be rolling out nationwide. I would expect them into Big W and Target stores, not Target and Kmart. Hopefully, in some of those stores, they will be less than $38, $38, $39. Hopefully, they'll be $29 in the likes of Kmart. There is one other wave mate for this wave, and that's Prowl. I'm actually kind of disappointed that Prowl's not here because I would have liked to see Prowl. I reckon he actually looks pretty good because his deco in Cyberverse is actually slightly different to the normal black and white police car. He's got some blue on him. So here's my question as far as Cyberverse goes. Am I the only one that's into these figures? Are you guys after them at all, Max? Tony?
You probably are, yeah. And it's not even... I like the show well enough. It's just these... It's like you were saying, they're not really up to par.
Yeah, they're not up to par at $39. At $29, I can forgive a few things about them, but I do look at them and see there's genuinely a lot of I mean, there's a lot of points of articulation in there. They usually have head tilts. They usually have leg swivels. They have functioning knees, elbows, wrists. They even have ankle tilts as well. So like, there's a lot of stuff that's good about them. But sometimes just the plastic, maybe a little bit of a letdown. It might be a little bit light. The other thing that I actually like about these figures is that they are generally compatible with the 5mm effects pieces that we've sort of lost out of the Earthrise line over the last 12 months. Hasbro did a big thing about effects parts and blast effects in Siege, and then they just sort of took them away in Earthrise. But the Cyberverse guys come with functioning effect parts, and they're pretty good.
So help me out here, Jace, because I'm not a fan of Cyberverse at all. As in, not that I don't like it, it's just that I haven't been into it. But when I look at these figures, it's the same as if you were to look at like a cheap Chinese knockoff of a Siege figure, for example. That's the feeling I get when I stare at these. It's very foreign to me. Yeah.
So you're not off base. Yeah. The interesting thing about the Cyberverse figures is that they are not a part of the Transformers Generations line.
Yes.
Now, what that means for the genesis of these figures within Hasbro is kind of an open question that we'll probably never really know the answer to. But it does mean that I think they're probably not worked on by the same team that does our regular Generations figures.
Right.
And so you've got, you've got the box that says Transformers. It's got all of the trademarks and stuff on it. Notably, the Cyberverse boxes do not say Takara Tomy as well. So Hasbro is not sharing branding with Takara on these, and I feel like these are pretty much done by the B team, right? Like they might be done by interns. There might be people who are just starting out in the team, cutting their teeth. Yeah. The thing is that they do match the designs of the show and the cartoon, which is actually something that Hasbro has been prioritising a bit lately, because the CAD designs for Siege and Earthrise have been used in the Netflix series. Here, they've sort of gone the other way, and they've gone, right, well, we've got this animation model for Starscream, and we can kind of make that work as a toy, so we can bring that out and make Starscream look pretty much like the cartoon. And that's kind of the appeal. He's like if you look at Soundwave's got his little shoulder pads that have sound waves that display on them, and that's part of the conceit of the design of the figure in Cyberverse. And he looks pretty much like his G1 bot mode, but his alt mode is a vehicle in Cyberverse. So they're marching to the beat of their own drum in a little bit, but they are still paying homage to what's come before them.
Yeah, so if you were to line up, say, an Earthrise Starscream against this Cyberverse Starscream, I think you'd probably see, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably see a little bit more articulation on the Earthrise figure compared to this. This looks very simple in terms of design. But also, I noticed that with the box, it looks very, I guess, targeted towards kids, right? Because I guess the age group of the show, So that makes me think that, as far as these toys are concerned, they're not going to put as much detail or sort of attention to detail as they would normally for a Generations type figure, because the kid's just going to take it and just start playing with it and smashing it into the ground or putting it out in the backyard somewhere.
Yeah, that's quite right.
What they can get away with.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's worth noting. So spoiler for acquisitions, I have a Kingdom Cyclonus here, and on the box it says 8+, but on these boxes they're 6+, right? So they are definitely geared at a younger generation of fans.
There's a pivotal 2 years where you can't deal with a Generations box.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be at least 8 years old before you can handle Transformers Generations.
Right.
That's right. I mean, look, there are other Transformers franchises for young kids as well. Like there's Rescue Bots Academy and stuff like that. But I mean, Cyberverse is a cartoon, and so does have a kiddie appeal to it. It's not Earthrise and Siege, the sort of decidedly more adult oriented show that's on Netflix. And the one thing that I will, I mean, that sounds like I'm damning it with faint praise, but the one thing I will say is it's a lot of fun. Like the show is actually, it's got a really good sense of humor about itself, and the designs of the bots are pretty fun, and they've sort of kicked over a few anthills and made a few people sit up and take notice. So they've got an alternate universe Megatron that's super evil. He's Megatron X, and they also have to the surprise of everyone, in what everyone thought was going to be their final episode. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. In what everyone thought was going to be the final episode, they introduced a Decepticon trooper from the alternate universe that Megatron X is also from, and he's basically Tarn from the IDW comics written into animation. And so not only does Cyberverse have a Tarn, they've got an army of them. He's like that character model is the general foot trooper of the alternate universe Decepticons.
That's an interesting sort of cross-pollination there, isn't it?
And it is. I mean, Hasbro does like to sort of reference things from one franchise but from one generation of Transformers in another. I mean, you've seen all the nods that we get in Earthrise to different generations in years past, and you still get those nods in Cyberverse as well. But there's a few different nods as well. Let's go to the next story, which is the constantly accelerating release of Kingdom figures. Now, Kingdom has just been released worldwide. It was pretty much the 1st of January. It went on sale in Singapore, Hong Kong, the USA, and a couple of weeks later it's popping up all over the place here. So you will find Kingdom toys in Target, Kmart, Big W, and I suspect Maya at some point might get Kingdom if they can get rid of Earthrise Wave 1. We'll see how it goes. But so it's extremely surprising to see that Kingdom Wave 2 has popped up less than a month after launch on store shelves in Singapore. Now, this was not seen at a Toys R Us store in Singapore. This was seen at a store called Isotan, which is I believe from my time in Singapore, I believe Isotan is a Japanese department store. It's not the big one that's in Singapore, which is Takashimaya. But yeah, it is a department store. These guys were spotted on the shelves at one particular branch of Isotan in Singapore. It's possible that they were accidentally released early. So what we're looking at is Kingdom Wave 2 Voyager Inferno, who is a repaint of the Earthrise Grapple from Wave 1 of Earthrise, and Kingdom Voyager Dinobot, who is a new mold. Now, disappointingly, people have purchased Inferno and found that he suffers from the exact same problem that plagued Grapple in Earthrise, which is that there is a peg that is part of his transformation. I'm not sure if it's into robot or into truck. I think it must be into truck. And you can take this part and clip it onto the peg, but when you take it off, it's probably going to rip the peg off. And the only way to really get around that is to file that peg down slightly so that it's a less tight fit over it. It's really disappointing that Hasbro didn't actually change that. But we'll have to see whether or not it comes out as a running change this time as well. Now,
it is an interesting testament to the level of quality control or the lack thereof that Hasbro are sort of putting into their figures nowadays. It's disappointing.
Yeah, I was speaking with another member of the group the other day, and he said that he thinks, while everyone else whinges about 2020 being the year of the exclusive, he actually thinks 2020 was the year of the QC issues, because there's been a lot of issues in 2020. Some people have said that it's a COVID thing because they can't actually have as many people inspecting things in the factories. Yeah. But there's just been so many issues, and it doesn't really help that for the most part Hasbro tends to stay pretty quiet about the issues. Like they'll stay pretty quiet and they might fix them later. But look, I will just say, if you've purchased a Grapple and you've broken the peg off during the transformation, and you've sat there and gone, well, that's broken now. Woe is me. Take it back to the store. I mean, look, it's possibly a year later now if you bought it in Earthrise Wave 1, but these toys should not break out of the box. So if you buy one and it breaks out of the box, take it back to the store. You have a reasonable expectation that these toys will last a while, especially if you are paying $50 for them. So don't just sit there and let them break and just go, I'm gonna have to buy another one of that. Get your money back. Buy another one if you want to, or just get your money back and walk away from it.
It actually took me about a year ago when the grapples came out. It took me 2 broken pegs and a conversation with you, I think, over Facebook, to actually realise that I should ask for my money back, that this is not acceptable, and that I should actually get another grapple sent to me. But I actually got it from Amazon, and they were really good about it. Sort of, just say send the stuff back. But then now, if you actually look in, for example, in the Maya in Sydney, you cannot move from the Transformers section without bumping into a grapple. There's probably 57 grapples just sitting on their shelf. And as you said
that's only the first shelf. There's a second shelf as well.
That's right. And as you said at the beginning of this, they really need to get rid of those grapples to make way for things like the Kingdom Wave. So they're probably just sitting on a whole bunch of Kingdom stuff out the back.
They need to get rid of all the grapples so that they can stock Inferno.
That's right. That's right.
At the end of the day, you don't owe these companies loyalty.
Yes,
right? Absolutely. It's very true.
Like, if they're not delivering a product, you're paying a lot of money for just retail Transformers nowadays. And the general quality is going up, but you shouldn't have to be dealing with this stuff. There's just no reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Like I said, there's a reasonable expectation that these things are fit for sale and fit for purpose.
I had back in December when everyone was doing their Studio Series 86 runs on Kmart's, I walked into my local and I picked up a Studio Series Jazz, and when I took him home, his left arm was just loose, like it wasn't half attached or something like that, but it just didn't hold, so he couldn't even hold the gun up. It just kept falling by his side. And then I realized I could probably take this back, but I love the figure so much and it looks so good, and I only got it for $29. So there's nothing stopping me from just going down and getting another one anyway. So I did, rather than return the broken one.
So now you've got 2 Jazzes.
I do. Yeah. But one can't hold his hand up, so that's a problem. If he wants to ask a question, he can't. So that's a shame. Or maybe he can use his other hand. I don't know.
Jazz could be an ambidextrous bot. I don't know. We'll have to find out.
But that Inferno looks pretty good, I will say. It does. The figure itself looks very true to the G1 cartoon.
He does. Look, I've been looking at this tiny photo all this time, but there you go. There's a side-by-side photo of Grapple and Inferno showing that yes, indeed, one is a repaint of the other, with a slightly retooled head, I believe as well. Yes, which is pretty common when it comes to Grapple and Inferno. I've resisted getting Grapple in Earthrise, and I mean, I'm the reason that Maya has 57 of them, obviously, instead of 56. I've resisted getting Grapple because I felt like his orange was just a tad too much for me. But the red on Inferno, I feel, is kind of about right. I think that's looking good. Inferno, I feel, is looking like a much better use of the mold than Grapple.
Yes,
Inferno has always been a bit easier on the eyes.
It's true. Yeah. Are you guys into... first of all, are you guys collecting Kingdom, and are you going to get Inferno and Dinobot?
Yes, I started my Kingdom collection this week, and we'll get to that in acquisitions. But yeah, I've just been in the messenger groups that you've set up, Jace. There's been a mad rush on Kingdom figures, and I managed to pick up a Warpath as well on top of that, which I didn't want to pick up, but it was just there. So as part of the hunt, when you see something out in the wild and it looks kind of okay, even though that's not what you wanted, you still go for it anyway. So
no, fair enough. Max, how about yourself?
Probably yes, but probably no. I'll probably get into Kingdom, but these guys don't really do much for me.
Fair enough. So which figures do?
I don't know, for whatever reason, that Cyclonus really gets me. This is the sort of thing, I don't want to order it online, I want to just come across it in a store. but there's a couple there. The core class, especially, like it just feels right up my alley. So, but it is if I manage to come across them, you don't really want to go out of your way for retail figures, in my opinion. It sort of loses what's special about it.
It kind of does. It's 2020 has seen such a dearth of retail figures in Australian stores that it's kind of like, well, if someone sees them and you want the figure, I'm sort of like, well, just get them to grab them and then figure out who knows that person and get them to pass them along. This is what we've been doing in New South Wales. We formed hunt groups on Messenger, so people go out to stores and they're like, this is here, and people will get it and people pass them along to each other so they avoid some postage. Now that hasn't actually happened in South Australia yet, but we might have a bit of a chat, see if we can start up a Messenger hunt group in South Australia. See if we can help.
Fortunately, there's all of 5 retail stores in the entire state, so
they're all between the churches, aren't they?
It's basically all in the one city.
Yeah, fair enough. So anyway, that's Kingdom Wave 2. Only the Voyagers out so far. I haven't seen any others, but the others will probably come in due time in Singapore, and we'll see whether or not Kingdom Wave 1 does the traditional shell form in Australian retail. I will say that Kingdom has been flying off the shelves here. However, they've also been restocking pretty well. So
yes.
at some point, the demand is going to outstrip supply, or the supply is going to overwhelm demand. On past performance, it's been the latter, but we'll see what happens. We'll see.
I predict we'll end up with a Siege, Thundercracker, and Megatron type situation. Like in every big W that you walk into now, there's at least 105 of those.
Do you know what I heard about that?
Yeah.
About why Big W has a ton of Siege, Thundercracker, and Megatrons?
What's that?
So what I heard, and I've got no way of telling if this is true or not. What I heard is that someone at Big W went, "Oh, Thundercracker! Yes, he's popular and well sought after because Earthrise Thundercracker is like everyone's just like, give me the Earthrise Thundercracker," and so they saw Thundercracker and went, "Yes, we'll have a shitload of that."
Oh wow!
It's a rumor, but yeah, interesting. Someone else can tell them they're not the right Thundercracker, but
I'm gonna say it does sound plausible. It does.
It kind of does, doesn't
it? Yeah.
It sounds plausible to anyone who's ever worked in retail.
Yeah, it does. And that's exactly the thing. It's like, yeah, they could probably mess that up. So yeah. Have you guys purchased a Kingdom Megatron Beast Dinosaur Barney mode thing?
If I could find one, I would definitely purchase one to go with.
Yes, they're a bit thin on the ground in New South Wales at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
So I know Max hasn't. So let's go and have a look at the running variant that's been discovered in this line, which is that there's 2 faces. You have to look very carefully if you pick this guy up. Look in the box to see which face you're getting. Normally he's got a very stern face. Let's just wait for that image to load, and it's not loading. So let's just do that. Let's just put them side by side. One is the CGI. Or the package art, but he's got a very stern face that just I'm Megatron, and the other one has a not a grin, but he's got a toothy, determined look on his face, and that's the new variant that's been discovered out in the wild in the US. Unknown whether or not that's actually coming to Australia yet. So if you're out there getting a Beast Wars Megatron, check out to see which face you're getting. Now the question is, does one of the faces appeal more to you guys than the other?
Yeah, kind of. The regular one just, it's a bit more universally applicable.
Yeah.
Whereas
so the bit of the scowl.
Yeah, the variant is just kind of this one very specific face that's being pulled, and it's in character, but it doesn't have the same appeal of just being able to use it in any sort of pose.
The variant looks like the kind of face you get if you get pulled over by a cop or something, and he asks you if you were aware that you were speeding.
So I think what you're saying is that the variant face is the grimace emoji. Is that right?
That's right. It is. Yeah. But also, why does he have purple teeth? Is this part of the cartoon?
Don't tooth shame Megatron.
Look, a little bit of Colgate wouldn't go astray. That's all I'm saying.
Look, did they have Colgate back in prehistoric Earth? I don't know.
Coal.
You can't prove
could
they
have
didn't.
used coal.
I think that's the problem, is that he's been eating coal. There's no energon.
It's a shame Bradley's not here because I'm curious. Is that consistent with the cartoon? And have they made a mistake here? Have they just been really lazy and just haven't bothered painting his... and they just decided to paint the teeth?
I don't know. It does look like they're a slightly different shade, although I suppose, given the way that the paint gets applied to this stuff, no, you're probably right. It's probably just pink, just purple, pink,
Yeah.
whatever he is.
Yeah. I think I still like the stoic look as opposed to the grimace.
Yeah. No, fair enough too. I can see the appeal of both, but it depends whether or not he's in a fight or not. I actually wonder if maybe one of the heads might be destined for a different repaint of the figure, maybe as a generation select, or maybe there'll be a repaint of him later on. But maybe that's what's going on with the head sculpt. But
do you know what it reminds me of? Is last year's Earthrise Starscream, where there was a. Do you remember, guys? Remember there was a variant of the Starscream face, and then I think they worked
it was on
out,
Thundercracker.
It was on Thundercracker, that's right, because people were thinking that it was actually the Coronation Starscream face just before he gets shot by Galvatron.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be, Thundercracker.
So I know a lot of people who swapped Starscream and Thundercracker's heads to get that effect on Starscream. So yeah. In fact, was that Earthrise or was that Siege? I feel like that was Siege.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay. I thought it was Earthrise, but yeah.
I've got a Skywarp and Thundercracker pack like within my line of sight, but I really can't get to it without destroying my headphone setup. So I'm not going to do that. But I thought it was Siege, but maybe it's actually both Siege and Earthrise. They've got the variant heads going.
Yeah.
We'll find out. One more Kingdom story to talk about, which is the super cute little core class Starscream. He's coming, and
look at him! Look at the little guy.
I know. He's like Star Wiggle, not Starscream.
It looks so enthusiastic.
I know he does, doesn't he? He's just sort of like, look at me, don't look at that loser.
First day of class, ready to take on the leadership of the Decepticons. You know, look at him. He's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
He's so Hasbro said when they launched the core class with Optimus Prime, they said that they'd really tried to sort of distill down the essence of the bigger Earthrise Optimus Prime into the core class figure, and I'd say they kind of succeeded in that. Like having a look at that figure and the poses that it can pull off, and we just mentioned the Legends and the core has core class figures have been really impressive in the last few years, but they're really kicking some goals with the cores in Earthrise. What I noticed is that they're taking figures that they've done before and just shrinking them down to core. And it's like, well, you don't have to spend another $50 or $70 on this. You just get this little one for $20. And I feel like this is noticeably Starscream, but also it's noticeably the Earthrise or Earth mode Starscream as well. Like there's his feet are sort of the obvious telltale sign for that, and I just like the fact that they've managed to sort of miniaturize what makes the Earthrise Starscream very specific. He looks like he's got plenty of articulation as well. Excuse me. He's got his legs look like they swivel around a bit. He's got knees. I think it even looks like he's got ankle tilts, which is really impressive at that scale. Plus the arms swivel and his elbows go, obviously, as well.
It's a shame there's no shot of the alt mode, because I remember for the Earthrise Starscream, the alt mode was the thing that sold me.
Is there not?
The figure.
I don't know. Let me take. There you go.
Oh, there is.
Oh, look at that! Look at that! That's a pretty nice looking Starscream. He looks slightly deformed. Sort of not in like a mutant way, but like just sort of slightly squat. I think he's maybe possibly about 10% shorter than he should be.
Yeah.
But that sort of just goes with the sort of the dinky die go getter look that the figure has. So he's a nice looking figure. He might actually be my first core figure. as I said, like the cores have been fun, but I haven't picked any of them up. And there's a look at him versus Rat Trap and versus the Sharkticon that is very specifically the Sharkticon from the Quintesson Pit of Judgment set. So whoever took these photos is showing off. But yeah, and there's Kranix as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, like he's pretty much what we expect from the Legends scale and the core scale. And that's next to his Buzzworthy Bumblebee, which is a slightly smaller core class figure. And rightly so, because Bumblebee's a small figure.
That looks great.
And there's the Optimus Prime there as well.
Optimus one looks fantastic.
He does. Optimus seems to have very large, prominent ball joints in his elbows. But
Yes.
Starscream, I don't know, maybe I don't think they've moved Starscream's arms out of this pose.
Maybe there's a reason.
Maybe, yeah. It looks like maybe there's a ball joint on there as well. I would assume that's sort of how they do the core engineering. Yeah, there you go. There's a big ball joint. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, fair enough. He does look pretty fun. If I walk past him in the store, I'll probably pick him up.
Yeah, so me too.
All right, Max, are you into core Starscream?
I am. He's the sort of thing which I definitely think I'll pick up if I can find him.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so.
he just works. It's
Actually,
a cute little package.
I just really appreciate the detail and the fact that they've even painted his intake jets there as well.
But anyway, looking at there's sort of a bad paint job on this picture, Jace. You can see that there's they haven't done all the red on the inside of Starscream's chest there. It's quite interesting.
Oh yeah, you're right. You know, I completely didn't even notice that.
Yeah, they're missing something.
Oh, look, I will point out that this is probably a lunchtime special or a pre-production figure, so maybe that will be fixed up at release. You can sort of see down further. It does they do paint inside, but you can also see there's a couple of chips off, or maybe it's just an unfinished paint job on this as well, which is actually even more interesting because I would have honestly expected that to just be molded red plastic instead of painted.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that makes it interesting for me is if you look at it from this angle, it kind of makes me think he looks like a Happy Meal toy, but like a really well-produced one. You know?
Yeah, I mean it's about that size of like something that you would expect to be, you know, a little toy that you can sort of throw out and you know, throw around like candy. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on. I think we can all agree that Kingdom Core Class Starscream gets what do we say? It's getting 3 Junkions, the full 3 Junkion experience. 3 Junkions out of 3.
I call it innocent.
Innocent.
You know, thinking of the Quintessons.
Oh, okay. So you want to throw them to the Sharkticons? That's fine.
I do. I just want to get as many as I can and throw them. They look so good.
That's an interesting segue into the next story, which is only slightly tangentially related to the Quintessons, but the Chaos Bringer.
Yes.
The Chaos Bringer is coming. So we're looking on screen here at a room full of Unicrons. This photo came out from Robot Kingdom earlier this week. There's a ton of Unicrons. They're stacked 3 high on a pallet, and they are taller than a human. And Robot Kingdom says this is their warehouse. So they have been receiving stock of the Haslab's Unicron, and wow, they're really getting ready to send those out. So yeah, this is big. It's really happening. Did you guys pre-order Unicron?
I did not, but he is a significant amount of money.
This is true. Tony, are you into the Cron?
I got to say, looking at these pictures, I wish I had done the pre-order at the time that I had the chance. So no, I didn't. But these boxes are huge. Like, you can only imagine the size of the figure inside. Wow, it's impressive.
They are impressive. What it also means is that just to really sort of stick it to the naysayers who've been like, oh, Hasbro's going to run late. Well, no. This is in Robot Kingdom's warehouse. They're ready to go. Word is that come February 1st, they will start distributing these because the estimated release date at the time that this guy was crowdfunded was February 2021.
Nice.
So come February, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of Unicrons pop up on Facebook and Not necessarily in ours, because I think EB Games might get it later in the month. We'll see. But yeah, there'll be a lot of Unicrons popping up all over the place.
Jace, how many Unicrons did you freight forward or get shipped from overseas?
So here's the thing. Australia got the best deal on the planet for Unicron. Really? Yeah, we did.
What was the deal?
So I can't remember Unicron's price in America. I think it was $500 or $550.
Yeah.
And if you just took that and converted it to Australian dollars, it was $850. And that is literally the price that EB Games charged. However, if you were in the US and you wanted to support Unicron and get in on the crowdfund, you had to come up with $500 or whatever the full price was in 2019. Within 2 months of them announcing it, you had to actually fully fund this from out of your own pocket. EB Games in Australia took a deposit from people and went, "Yep, that's right, we'll order it for you, and you can pay us the rest in February 2021." So Australians got a great price on it. There's no Australia tax or GST. Well, there's GST obviously, but there's no Australia tax on it. Like, there's no just slogging an extra 30% because they can. It's a great price, and he should be coming soon. I'm really looking forward to getting him.
You still haven't answered the question. How many did you get?
I got one. So the freight forwarding stuff that I do is only about 6 months old. So when this was up for pre-order, it was not something that I was looking into. And at the same time, you'd be silly to bring one in from overseas. It'll cost you more money. You could just go to eBay and buy one. Now, that does bring up an interesting point, though, which is, what if you didn't get on Unicron and now you want one?
Yes.
Have fun.
I put myself in that bucket. Yeah.
So yeah, so Max has just gone, yeah, have fun, because you're leaving yourself at the mercy of the market now. And I bring this up for a couple of reasons, right? There was an extra release of Unicrons for pre-order from Big Bad Toy Store a couple of weeks ago. It might have been last week. They were $850.
Whoa.
So that's quite the markup. That's $350 or about $300 or so. That's a 50% markup. But at the same time, Big Bad Toy Store had to pay that in 2019 to fund this figure. So it's kind of alright that they make a little bit of money on it, isn't it? I don't know. I don't expect Big Bad Toy Store to run as a charity. Now, so further to that, there was a lot of supposition at the time that retailers were going in on the crowdfund and just going, right, we'll get 20 in just to prop the numbers up to get Unicron over the line. Because if you recall, back in 2019, it was not a sure thing that this was going to happen. And it felt like at the end of it felt like Hasbro was really just plucking numbers to just sort of try to shore up the support for this. And it all seemed to happen in a big rush on the last day. They added international orders and stuff like that in, and just went, yeah, it's about right. And I think then about a month later, they ended up saying, right, yeah, we actually smashed it to about 10,000 orders. So, did retailers go in on the crowdfund for some extra units for themselves? And if they I feel like EB Games would be very likely to have one of these in one of their flagship stores. I think EB Games, one of their flagship store is the one on Swanston Street in Melbourne's CBD. Can you imagine if you go in there and there's a giant Unicron sitting there looking back at you? However, the question then is, what purpose does that serve? Because that guy's probably not going to be on sale. They probably have 2 or 3 at most. It might just be a case that EB might have purchased maybe an extra 10 of them, and they'll sit in a warehouse until someone goes into the store and says, hey, I want this. We won't necessarily know. I would be really interested to know if someone actually goes to an EB Games store and goes, yeah, I actually want this. Can you do something for me? And see what they say. It does. I'm also getting to the point that recently, in the last few days, a fairly much maligned member of the Australian Transformers community, who's not very popular with a lot of people, put a Unicron pre-order up for sale. So he's purchased it for $850 from EB Games, and he put it up for sale in some Facebook groups at $1,600.
Right.
Now,
So can you DM me who this was, because I missed this?
sure. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to give him any oxygen. But
Yeah.
If it was revealed to be Jace, would you be disappointed?
Oh, I'd kind of be impressed, actually.
I said not well regarded. I think I'm liked.
You're talking about yourself in the third person.
So anyway, I really disagree with this. His justification is that people didn't jump on the pre-order when it was available, and this is the going rate, the market rate for it. I call bullshit on that. I think that's really not a very community-minded response to it, and I don't mind someone making a little bit of money on it, but come on, that's twice the price. Basically, what he's done is he's pre-ordered 2 of them, and now he's expecting the second one to pay for his own, and I don't agree with that. I don't think that's very fair.
But you know what, though? I mean, you see this a lot on eBay as well. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone is silly enough to pay that amount, then good luck to them. But I don't imagine many people would want to pay that, despite, the awesomeness of this toy.
So here's the thing, right? People will pay it. I think this person in particular has made himself persona non grata, so I think he's finding it very difficult to actually make a sale.
Right.
But
right.
I am seeing people pay silly amounts for the exclusives that have come out in the last year. So my freight forwarding group, buyers group, I was browsing Robo in Singapore, and I noticed, hey, they have the Earthrise Coneheads, Ramjet and Dirge in stock. They're 195 Singapore dollars, and I thought, no one's going to go for it, but I still took the offer to my group and said, look, this is available. I can import them if you want to, and 6 people said yes.
Wow!
And when those 6 people said yes, it was almost immediate as well. So, like, people have rationalized paying twice what something is worth in order to get it. That's a scale that works differently at $800 versus $50, but it's still kind of an unwelcome feeling. I don't really want that to be the norm, and that happens. And this is ultimately why I work my butt off to bring in exclusives and things that people want, to stop them having to go out and pay aftermarket scalper prices. So anyway, I was disappointed to see that happen. That person likes to think of himself as a productive member of the Transformers community, and I disagree. I think he's just revealed himself to be the word that someone used earlier to describe this to me was maggot. So not very happy. I was I would use a shorter word, but it's going to get us an explicit language warning on iTunes, so I'm going to not.
Sacrifice, no victory.
We do swear like sailors most episodes anyway, but yeah. Anyway, I think I would like to move on quickly there.
Before we move on, Jace, can I just ask a quick question? What do you think, looking at that picture with all of those Unicrons, what do you think the collective noun for a bunch of Unicrons would be? An Orson Welles of Unicrons? An Orson?
No. And a well of Unicrons.
A well of Unicrons, thank you.
There we go.
Yes.
All right, we decided that. More Cyberverse, sorry. We all thought Cyberverse had finished at the end of Season 3, and a number of us were very upset by this news, because by the time Season 3 finished, the show had really matured, and it seemed like a shame to bid it farewell and send it off into the lake for a Viking funeral. So I was very happy to find out that there is a Season 4 of Cyberverse coming. It's going to have a slightly different form. Cyberverse has always experimented a little bit. They had some unusual episode formats in Season 1 with Bumblebee attempting to recover his memories. Then they sort of a much more straightforward Season 2, and then Season 3 just sort of went very much Matrix-y sci-fi kind of thing. So Season 4, they've got 2 44-minute TV movies, and there's two epic specials coming, which has just been revealed. One is called The Immobilizers, in which the entire planet of Cybertron becomes frozen in time. And the second one is The Perfect Decepticon, which hopefully is about Tarn, following as the peace treaty between the Autobots and the Decepticons is put to the test. And we don't know when these guys are coming out yet. There's no airtime, but it should hopefully appear on the Cyberverse YouTube channel along with everything else. There's been a number of ways to watch Cyberverse over the years.
This must be a testament, though, to how popular the show is, Jace, even though I haven't seen it. But the fact that they doubled down on an extra season with 2 sort of specials, it's quite impressive when you think about it, like for a show that was apparently on the edge of oblivion and close to being cancelled.
I think so. Look, those Cyberverse toys don't buy themselves. We go into the stores and we walk straight past all the Cyberverse toys. Not everyone does because those things sell. So,
do they though? Because every time I've been going looking for Kingdom stuff or Studio 6, there's always Cyberverse stacked on the shelves, particularly in Kmart.
It's always there, but look very carefully when you go in week to week. They're different.
Okay.
They really do sell. And we've seen Kmart shelves completely picked clean in the last month. So those Cyberverse toys went somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Last news story for the night, and this is a personal indulgence for me, so I'm going to get it over and done with quickly. There is a special edition Year of the Ox coin coming out in China. I like coins, and I also think that this comes in a particularly clever box, being a Soundwave representation, and on the back there's some artwork with Prime Megatron Bumblebee and Soundwave sharing oxtail soup. So yeah, I like shiny things, I like coins, I like pins, so I will be trying to find this one. I never managed to get the Year of the Rat coin that was announced a couple of years ago. I kind of feel like it didn't actually come out, but also I noticed that this leaked image has come from the same Weibo account as the previously announced one, so we'll see what happens. On the coin there's an Ox version of Optimus Prime on one side and the Autobot Decepticon symbol on the other. That is it for the news. I'm going to kick the news share out and we're going to spend 5 minutes going through a very quick round of acquisitions. Who am I going to start with? It's not going to be me. How about yourself, Tony? Because we have no vision of what you're going through. So, how about you tell us what you've acquired?
Allow me to rectify that.
Goodness!
Just this once, okay?
Oh my goodness!
Check this out. Can you see?
We can. We've put you up full screen.
Fantastic. Look at this.
Oh, Tony! There's a reflection of your face in Grimlock's chest piece.
I better turn on the camera.
Oh my god!
My ugly face. But look at this guy. He's the leader of me, Grimlock. Look at him. Don't you think he's chunky?
Gaze upon his visage and wonder.
Because he's looking at you, right? But you can see that in the last week's podcast, I was talking about the little brown chest plate and how annoying it is. In person, it's actually not that bad, but I still want to get rid of it because it's not really him. Do you know what I mean?
Like I said last week, why don't you just stick an Autobot symbol on it?
No, but that's not the point. It's the whole chest. If you have a look at this, like it's not coming out well on the camera, but the actual chest is quite a nice shade of gold, and it looks quite bright yellow in the light, I think. But it's not about the actual insignia. It's actually just the fact that the clash of the brown of the chest plate and the gold, it doesn't look well. It doesn't look good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but
right.
he's a beast, guys. Look at him. Look at this guy.
He does look great. I'm looking forward to getting him.
Yeah, and also comes with this waste of space. And as we talked about last week, he has his knees. I don't know if it's coming out well on the camera, but
it looks like he's dancing constantly.
Yeah, that's right. He's getting
like
jiggy
just
with it.
Yeah, wheelie like an Egyptian.
That's right. But the knees are constantly bent. But there's this interesting little sort of pin. I don't know if you can make it out, but there's a little grey sort of pin there, and that sits on. It helps you to sit on Grimlock's shoulder.
Oh, he's a peg.
Is a peg. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
The head is the only thing that the head actually surprisingly has a range of movement, so it can actually move around a little bit.
It can move left and right,
and up and down. And then the arm. This arm is perpetually bent at an angle, and this one has his little Energon slingshot, which is not removable, so it just stays there. But yeah, so it's pretty poor figure. But in terms of size, it's quite interesting because I was thinking about sort of lining this guy up against Ultra Magnus from Siege, and you can see that they're quite similar, but the weight like the depth, if you like, of Grimlock is a lot more than even Siege Ultra Magnus.
He really is. He really is the first true leader class figure size figure that we've had in quite a while.
Correct. And it's certainly there's a lot of playability in terms of transform. I've only done it once to transform him into alt mode, but here he is next to Jazz, so you can see the height difference.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
it's like Jazz's Bumblebee next to Prom or something.
That's right. Yeah, but it's quite an interesting dynamic because they've really. I was just reflecting on this today that the Grimlock size is kind of like the Combiner Wars Devastator size with the individual Constructicons, how they're massive, so that in aggregate they create a massive Devastator. It's similar to the Grimlock size because I can imagine putting him up against the Combiner Wars guys, and they would probably be exactly the same size.
Yeah. I figure so. Like Combiner Wars leaders were actually leader size as well. So yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But really impressive and very happy with this purchase. And as I said on the TCCA Facebook page, there are only 4 of these in Australia. Only 4. And
I suspect that a few people might be importing them or waiting for them to come out from EB Games.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's my acquisition.
Max, how about have you got an acquisition to show us there?
I do. I have a single acquisition. I actually have 2 over the last 6 months, and they're very impressive. Mm-hmm. But figured it would be better to, just go one at a time so I'm not burning myself out all at once. So this is perhaps Wei Zhang's final major release, their version of Bumblebee Optimus Prime.
Wow. Yes, because Wei Zhang has been raided and is said to have ceased to exist, even though we know that they'll probably just go across the road and start a new factory.
Basically, yeah. So I look forward to when Zhang Wei starts up with their, Bumblebee Soundwave. But this is a really interesting piece because it's technically the whole Wei Zhang deal of they'll take a pre-existing figure, knock it off, and sort of update it in their own way. But this is really stretching the definition. I have messed around and looked at the regular release Bumblebee Optimus Prime from Hasbro, and this is just so vastly different. There's some similarities in terms of skeleton and what have you. You can see where this does retain a couple of limitations, like the fact that he's got single jointed elbows, and sort of limited transformation options around the torso. You can see where it's been limited by that, but for the most part, this feels like entirely its own thing. And for the barely over $100 that it runs for, it's a hell of a deal. Having now 2 of the 3-0 pieces, 2 of the deluxe Bumblebee figures, the detail here is on par with one of those, and it transforms as well.
Silly
Very
question,
nice.
Max, but when you transform it, how easy is it to transform?
It's a nightmare. It is.
Yeah.
It's a Wei Zhang piece, so it's sort of sometimes it works really well, but it's because they're knocking off stuff and then adding bits afterwards. There's the alt mode's always an afterthought, and for this guy, it's not hard per se, but it's just you don't really feel like you're going to break it or anything like that. Everything moves and clicks in how you expect it to, but it feels like more than it needs to be, and it gets to be a bit of a chore. I've only transformed it 2 or 3 times because it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Is it a lot of parts forming where you have to pull stuff off as a separate piece and then it just sits on the table or something like that?
There's basically none of that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's which is an issue I think they've run into in the past, but not present here at all.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm quite happy there.
He looks like he's got a bit of weight to him as well.
Yeah, he's a hefty boy. He's got a similar quantity of die cast to the 3-0 pieces.
Yeah.
The plastic itself is fairly cheap. Cheap's an understatement. It's a bit better than Hasbro quality plastic, but just the size of the thing makes it feel not quite up to the same part.
Hasbro's Studio Series plastic is a little bit different to what we get in Earthrise and Siege as well. So, and you can tell that when you pick up a figure like Studio Series 86 Hot Rod as well. So, yeah, I do take the comment about plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd call it more on par with the Siege and Earthrise and stuff. It's got that sort of, it's got that nice dense feeling to it, but I think it's just sort of a matter of a way everything connects, and the fact that it's an upsize of a smaller figure means it feels more flimsy than it actually is.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like, if you imagine everything moves around. Like, if you bump this figure, everything moves around very easily. But if you put it in a pose, it holds that pose. And if you have it transformed, it doesn't untransform itself from either mode. Right? So it's, when you've got it in your hand and you're messing around with it, or you just bump it on the table, right, it doesn't feel too well built. But when it's doing what it needs to do, it does it well. And I'm not particularly concerned about it breaking whatsoever.
No, it looks pretty hefty. Yeah.
You could certainly do some damage with that if you were in a fight.
Yeah, you could. Like, he's a chunky boy. So I would definitely recommend it, because it's sort of, even if you're collecting like the 3-0 line for the Bumblebee movie, right? It fits in with that really nicely. Like, a lot of the time you can't really see very much in the way of transformation joints. They sort of added a lot of a back detail there in this figure. Sort of like, there's that really distinct spinal column and sort of really nice, very organic feeling contours to the legs and lower body.
Are the thighs seductive?
I wouldn't say they're seductive. I'd say they're alluring.
All right, yeah, no, fair enough. Okay.
No, it's not. You don't feel bad about it. You feel confident when you look at them.
No, but how does it make Optimus feel when you're staring at his thighs, though, right? It makes him uncomfortable.
My eyes are up
that.
here, Tony.
I think he's he's got it out there, but he flaunts it because he's got it,
Yeah, sexiness
He's
is the right
pretty
of all
confident who
sentient
he is.
beings. It looks very intricate.
Please swipe right on my thighs.
A bot's gotta eat,
Yes. All right.
That's great.
Okay.
That looks really good.
Jason,
I'm gonna move myself front and center in here, and you can see all the crap behind me in the room. There's a couple of new acquisitions. I want to thank people for actually bringing things. I'm slightly immobilized at the moment. I can't really leave my house very much, other than sort of going to the hospital and to lunch on my block. So people have been bringing me things. So big thanks to Max Ray. Big thanks to Adam Wog. Big thanks also to Michael Vella and Kelvin Chan and Michael Fauché, and also Simon Chambers. Thank you for getting me all the Studio Series 86 figures that have come out and sending them to me and getting them to me. This week, someone has very kindly dropped me off a Kingdom Cyclonus, which I've dutifully not opened yet. I do have... did I say Studio Series 86? I meant Kingdom. Same thing.
Yes.
I do have the Studio Series 86 Scourge sitting here just waiting for me to unbox his bro. So... I'm going to get onto that in the next few days. Max also, a long time ago, picked me up a Jeep mode Bumblebee, which I don't know if it's any good, but I believe I've heard that it's a pretty good figure for the Studio Series things, and because he's like a re-engineer and redo of various Bumblebee figures. Looking forward to getting him out and putting him up with the Bumblebee Prime. And last but not least, and I don't really know why I got this, because I have a masterpiece on the figure on the thing behind me, but there is a Netflix Soundwave, so he will be opened up and dutifully played with and posed at some point in the next couple of weeks.
You will not regret that Soundwave. That Netflix Soundwave was amazing.
I'm suspecting I won't, and I mean, I won't regret. And the other thing that has arrived is a couple of calendars. So I'm just gonna show these off. So there's a very vibrant Transformers community on Twitter and obviously on TFW 2005. One of the proponents on there is a guy called Ticknat, and he makes a calendar based on sort of community artwork submissions every year, and sells it for sort of about 15 quid. I'll hold that up there. You can see so people have a bit of fun with their artwork and their submissions, and some people put in some serious things, and other people put in humorous stuff. So that is the calendar that adorns the doorway to my study. Very happy to have that. And this year I have a second calendar that's come in as well, and it's it's a Transformers fandom calendar called Lights, Camera, and Roll Out. The format of this is a desk calendar, so I'm slightly less taken by it because you can either have the artwork face you or you can have the month face you. And so, like, with those kind of things, like, you would walk into the room and see the artwork and then see the desk calendar and that, but that doesn't really work in my room. So I'm probably just going to use it to look at the pretty photos. And so the pretty photos are very, very pretty in this one because it's much more focused on the artwork rather than sort of collecting pieces of art that other people have made already in the community. So very, very, very happy with both of them. I like supporting community Transformers projects, so this is why I buy a lot of the enamel pin sets that come off Kickstarter. That's why I buy these calendars, and I buy a bit of TF Nation merchandise here and there as well, because I love going to TF Nation, and it breaks my heart that I don't think it's going to happen this year as well. So I'll go out. If you put a Transformers related Kickstarter project in front of me, I will probably back it. Like I said, I like coins as well, so like if someone does a coin project, I'd be in for that. So those are my new acquisitions for this week. I still have a pile of stuff under the desk that needs opening, and a couple of things did come into stock this week, but it's no big deal. I'll deal with them, and I'll deal with them as in the fullness of time.
It does look like you've got a bit of work to do behind you there as well. There's a couple of boxes behind you on the floor.
Just ignore that. In fact, those boxes are not mine, but they're someone else's.
All right.
Yes. Right. All right. I'm gonna put us back in this format for the end of the show. We have reached the end of the show. We tried to keep the show to an hour. Our apologies to our producer Brad, who has to edit the show and has a less fun time of it when we go over an hour. So sorry, Brad. We will try our best in future. Does anyone have anything else to say? Oh wait, I do have something else to say before we end the show. I've got another acquisition. I'm sorry, I didn't do this one first. We've been ever since Google killed Hangouts on air, we've been using a relatively new product called StreamYard to stream our show on the internet, and StreamYard was very kind enough to it's the wrong way up. StreamYard was very kind enough to send us some swag. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do with the pillow.
Sleep on it, evidently.
You just sit behind. So this is the thing. Like the pillow is like it's chock full of stuff inside it. Like I think if I stick my head on it, it's just going to like pop out behind me. So anyway, there's some StreamYard swag there from that, and I'm just going to get a little bit closer to the camera because, gosh, I'm suddenly very, very thirsty.
Right, well, been a good show, guys. I'll be heading off.
Cheers, everyone.
It was great before Jace decided to sell out.
Just a big thank you to StreamYard for sending us some swag. I've now shown their products on the podcast, so I can now take some screenshots of this video and post it into their support community to show what I've done with it. But yeah, big thank you to StreamYard for the swag and the goodies, and for running a service that we enjoy using. So thank you. That now, having given StreamYard a free ad in the show, that is the end of the show. So if you have been watching us, and a few people have been watching us in the Facebook group and on YouTube, so thank you very much to all of you who are watching live. If you've been enjoying the show, thank you for listening. If you haven't been enjoying the show, thank you for listening anyway. Thanks for checking us out. You will find out all about these stories with links to them in the show notes that go live on the Facebook page and the Podbean site. The Facebook page is Australian Transformers Weekly, and you can also find us in Transformers Collectors Club Australia on the Facebook discussion groups. And you'll find the podcast at transformersweekly.podbean.com with a lot of artwork that needs to be desperately updated, and that's on my to-do list this week. If you're not already subscribed, you can find us in iTunes, Pocket Casts, YouTube, Spotify, whatever your podcatcher of choice is. And if you can't find us, then there's an RSS link feed on the website. We are a production of Transformers Collectors Club Australia, a registered club in Victoria run by volunteers who donate their time and money to make the club better for everyone. I'm just going to fiddle with the layout there because I left the camera stuck on me. Our goal is to connect Transformers fans around the country, and we do it by engaging the collecting community and donating our time, like on a Friday night when we record the podcast. Thank you guys. To make everything better for everyone. You can find out more information about the club, including affordable yearly membership options, to show your support. And bear in mind that we also do pass on funds to the Royal Children's Hospital Foundation and support them as well at transformerscca.com. That is it for us, and we've done 3 weeks in a row. Let's try to be back with more Transformers news next Friday. Let's see what happens during the week and if there's enough news for us to gather enough stuff to talk about, shall we? It was very enthusiastic. Thank you.
You didn't
guys.
ask us what we're going to be up to. But
Sorry.
I think that's because we're running out of time, right?
Yes, this is true. We will, instead of asking you what you're going to be up to next week, I will ask you what you were up to. How's that?
Fair enough.
Done
Deal's a
and
deal.
done. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for listening. And we will see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.